Welcome to Wide Open Wednesday, news from around the world and beyond. This story occurred back in 2017. Milton Green, a black police officer for over a decade, was in the driveway of his home on St. Louis's north side one night when he suddenly found the barrel of a gun pointed in his direction. A chain of events eventually led to him being shot in his right forearm by a white officer. Mr. Green is a community liaison officer for the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department. His shift that night had ended hours earlier, and he was helping a friend work on his pickup truck. A car suddenly came screeching around the corner and ended up crashing near his front yard. Another sedan quickly pulled up, and Mr. Green felt a brief sense of ease when men in police vests hopped out because they were fellow officers. As stated previously, Mr. Green had been a police officer for more than a decade. And while he had bonded with colleagues across the department, he also had come to see distinct differences between black officers and white officers like those involved in the pursuit that night. During his tenure, he has heard his share of racially insensitive remarks at work, but on that evening in 2017, his outlook on the differences between black and white officers would be damaged beyond repair. It was at that moment that he was shot by one of the officers.
The moment he was shot, everybody knew that he was shot by a fellow officer.
In June of 2017, a chase involving St. Louis police and a stolen car came to an end near Park and Astra in the city's North Point neighborhood. St. Louis police said the suspects and officers exchanged gunfire. The lawsuit says 3 suspects inside the car got out and ran past the home of off-duty police officer Milton Green, who was in his driveway. One of the suspects pointed his gun at Green. Green drew his service weapon, identified himself as police, and told the suspect to drop his gun. The suspect ran. Uniformed officers arrived and ordered Green to drop his gun and get on the ground. Green complied, identified himself as an officer, and showed his badge. The lawsuit says a detective allowed Green to get up and told other officers Green was police.
The next moment, Mr. Green got up and approached the detective who knew him, his gun pointed down in his right hand. He held out his badge so there would be no confusion.
The suit alleges Green was giving the detective a description of the suspect when Officer Christopher Tanner arrived on the scene, shouted, "Drop your weapon," while simultaneously shooting Green in the arm.
As he was approaching him, the white officer yelled for him to drop his weapon. He yelled back that the officer shot him, then became weak and dropped to his knees. The white officer, Christopher Tanner, stated after, "That's definitely not what happened." He declined to elaborate, citing a lawsuit Mr. Green filed against him and the city, and has since left the department.
Anybody that kept into the emergency room, I told them what happened. My story never changed. It's not going to change then, it's not going to change now. I told them what happened.
Yet that was not the story provided by the then interim police chief that night.
An off-duty officer who lives in that area heard the commotion, came out of his house to render assistance, and during the exchange of gunfire, he was struck in his arm.
Green says he has gone through 6 months of physical therapy. He has a plate from his elbow to his wrist and lasting effects.
It's numb. It hurts. These 2 fingers, sometimes I get the shakes. I get shooting pains through it.
He says he can't do simple tasks around the house, and he can't do his job.
Can't carry a gun. Tried to hold, to squeeze it. Can't squeeze it.
Green became an officer to support his family and to make a difference in the community where he grew up.
It was, if you could save one life that day, feel like you did your job, especially in the city of St. Louis.
Now he's at risk of losing his home.
The racial tension in the department continued, and opinions have been split over another encounter in which a black officer working undercover at a protest was beaten by white officers so badly that the injured officer told a commander using an expletive that they beat him like Rodney King. That officer is Luther Hall. In the nearly 2 years since the shooting, Green has felt separated from the department he called home, where he had passed the sergeant's exam and had hoped for a promotion. He sees the union that was supposed to have his back, the St. Louis Police Officers Association, holding fundraisers for indicted white cops while doing virtually nothing for him.
And instead of taking responsibility and backing Officer Green, the city has abandoned him.
Please visit the source links for in-depth details. This is Wide Open Wednesday, news from around the world and beyond. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Click the notification bell so you will be notified when we upload new videos. Find the Awakening Frequency on Twitter and Instagram and also Facebook. We are the Awakening Frequency. Out of the millions of potential subscribers, we just want to reach one so each one can teach one. Peace.